Huh. How's everybody doing? It's been busy. And let me tell you something. I always, whenever I leave a comment in a YouTube video, generally, it's thank you for taking the time to make this. Because let me tell you something. If you haven't made any videos, just shut up. It takes so much out of you. It really does. And mine are quick and dirty. I just point the camera, shoot, talk for a minute, shut it off, hopefully, and go. Sometimes more than a minute. Always more than a minute. Anyway. So what are we doing here today? Capacitors. If you work on any kind of electronics, or if you're a hobbyist, or you play with any of this stuff, you're gonna learn a lot about capacitors. And if you don't know anything about these poly caps, you will, and because there's something you're going to come across a lot. And this is where value meets quantity, quality meets quantity. eBay, baby. I never buy anything on eBay. I do not buy components from eBay, except on rare occasion when I absolutely positively have to, and then it's tested thoroughly to make sure it's going to work. In this case, I do a lot of prototyping, and if you order anything on the reputable companies in North America here, like DigiKey and Mauser, although I'm going to go, I'm going to do a little bad mouthing here. DigiKey has been they have great packaging, really high quality tested components, but lately they've been sending me the wrong resistor values, and some of this stuff is for some pretty tight circuitry that doesn't allow for them to be, I don't know, 60 kilo ohms off on a value. That's kind of annoying. But anyway, just for example, these are the sets that you get off of eBay, the cheap ones, and this one in particular. I think I see is $9.73 plus $4.69 shipping U.S. from somewhere in China, and it actually got here pretty quick, about 2 weeks, which is pretty good for for the speed pack stuff over there. But these are just the cheap eBay caps, and I'm going to start off by saying I would not use any of these for repair before or after this video, just because I can't guarantee the quality of these caps. I can test them, and I can tell you whether they're the right capacitor or not, capacitance, and I can tell you whether or not they will achieve the correct breakdown voltage. However, I don't feel comfortable putting them into a circuit that somebody's paid me to fix. I want to make sure that they're a good quality cap, because if it goes to somebody else, if it breaks again, which I try and make sure it doesn't break, thoroughly tested, runs for hours before it leaves this lab. Having said that, it can happen, and I don't want the next guy to go in there that knows what he's doing and say, well, this guy uses cheap Chinese capacitors. Well, there's a lot of them that are all Chinese now, but generally what we're getting are stuff like the Panasonic. Panasonic's a pretty good quality name brand, a lot of testing, but guess what? Guess where they're made? Let's take a look. Can you get in there? You're going to be able to see it? China. Yep. Chinese. But they're generally considered higher quality, and these are the types that I use in repairs generally, so I know they're well tested, and I'll still go through them and check to make sure that they're capacity. But if you order anything from DigiKey, you'll see you got stuff like this. So I got tons of these things laying around here. Just oodles. This is one little stack. We've got some of the other types. The Illinois capacitors are pretty good for a lot of different circuit works. I just grabbed a little stack out of one of the drawers just to show you the difference. These things come in a nice static bag. They're all packed up, ready to go. But you're going to pay for them. I mean, they're they're a little bit pricier. And none of them, in my opinion, are all that bad. But when you have to recap an entire amplifier, or when you have to recap something that's got a whole bunch of capacitors in it, you can work up a pretty good DigiKey bill in really short order. So to waste them on prototyping is kind of a thorn in my backside, and I don't like doing it. So I just thought, well, let's give it a shot. For $10, $15, I think. Sorry about that glare. Like I said, a little under $15. Let's just see what they look like. So this is what I got in, and I've already put these through. Let's see if I can move this back, and just, that's not going to do it. I'm just going to have to leave it like that, I guess. Let's see if we can get in here on one of these. What we wound up with was a lot of values, and I'll just kind of pan across here. Sorry about the noise. I know the tripod makes some noise when it's moving. You can kind of see we've got our values. you know, our 15s and 22s, and then moving over to the 33s, 47s. Here was a weird thing. Number one, they didn't send any of the 0.0015 microfarad, but they did send 0.018 microfarad. I don't know. And there was also a couple other kind of oddball values that were in there. 0.27, I don't really see any of those. I don't think I've ever replaced a 0.027. And again, these are the polypropylene style, which I have polyester coming to, which they're interchangeable, really. And one thing that you may notice is I write our codes. Whenever I get this kind of stuff, I always write the code manufacturer. This is the value code. So, you know, 0.1 microfarads this is a 104. The K is the K designation is going to be the tolerance. So in this case, the K, this means 10%. So if we go over here, these are all J's. Excuse my handwriting, and those are all 5%. So all these that came in this kit were all 5 and 10%. Most of them are 5%. But we did get a couple of values where the 630 volt, the breakdown voltage of 630 volts is not observed. This one up here, if you can see it, this one's only rated at 250 volts, and this one over here, you know, I'm reading the package, and it sure as heck looked to me like 1.25 kilovolts. And when I say the package, I mean the actual component. When you look at the code on there, it's giving you the 332J, which is the 5%, but it's in the voltage breakdown voltage nomenclature. It's saying it's a 1.25 kilovolt capacitor. So there you go. I'm going to do more digging. That's why I wrote the question mark on there. I got to do a little bit more digging. And then over here to the side, we got another. Let's see, I'll move this over. We got another little 250 volt. These are 0.0068 microfarads. So. But we did get quite a few of them, and they all tested for capacitance, and I'll pop a couple out here real quick. I've got a multimeter set up, and I'll show you what I found on those. The capacitance, for the most part, what are these? 22 microfarad. Let's see if we can read our... Here we go, 224J, 630 volts, metalized polypropylene. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my multimeter, and I'll flip it over to capacitance to check our capacitor. Let's see what we have here. Yes, this is a cheap one. You know why? Because it works. You don't need an expensive multimeter. I have expensive multimeters. There's a couple sitting up on top of the bench. Got a couple more that I keep in the box ready to go. The Fluke, Tektronix. Those are the go-tos, but this is the one that stays on the bench because it's accurate. Whenever you match it, whenever you test it, it always matches right up to the Fluke. So I like the Tektronix, though, the TX3, because you can display a lot of stuff I work on. It's handy to be able to display both the AC and DC voltage at the same time, and that one will do that. So let's go ahead and put this in the circuit. Test leads on here, and we've got 220 nanofarads, which that was supposed to be a 0.22, and that is pretty daggone close. I mean, that's dead on the money, son. So I'm not going to go through all these, but I tested a bunch of these, and basically here's what I found. Couple good ones, and one that's it's close, but it's not close enough. And it's definitely, there was a couple of them that were right at that 10% where I was like, yeah, and it was supposed to be a 5%, so not all that great. So you're going to need to check them if you buy these things. But again, you got a lot of them to choose from in here. I mean, if you get a few duds, who cares? You know, you still got a lot more of them. So the next thing that I would need to settle just for myself is what kind of how much voltage can I push through these things. Now, for what I do, which again, it's mostly right now amplifier work, I'm working backwards. I started off with the micro soldering iron station, microscopes, to working on this little surface mount stuff, and I'm going backwards and getting into this through hole stuff. And it's witchery. It's all witchery to me. Otherwise, I would have had this bias circuit figured out. The stuff that I've worked on, you didn't need to adjust the bias circuit. It was already adjusted with the value of the resistors. Now, you know, these old push-pull amps, these AB amplifiers, it's not quite the same. So, moving on, the circuits that I'm working on now, with the exception of some of the vacuum tube stuff, which again, this would never see the inside of a vacuum tube amplifier. There's no way. But some of those voltages, I'm generally looking at 30 volts, 50 volts tops probably for something that one of these polys is going to go in. So I just need to know that I can put 100 volts through it. Again, they're supposed to be rated at 630 volts. So how do we check that? Well, I know that the capacity is good because everything's got a capacity tester. This is when we got to bring out the old guts and glory back here, and she's already running. This is the ICO 950B comparator, and you can see it doesn't have the brightest eye in the world. I rebuilt it a while back. It works really well. You can see I already got one in circuit. We're in test mode. It works really well, but that eye is just a little bit weak. The resistor, if you guys know anybody that knows about them, the first thing you do, there's a resistor across the back of that magic eye tube that goes up in value, and of course as it goes up in resistance, it's gonna dim the eye out a little bit. And yes, that resistor's already been changed, and that was the result. It actually got just a tad bit brighter, but it's still weak and it needs to be replaced. I just haven't gotten around to do it yet. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and set this this comparator up so we can drive a little bit of voltage through this and see if we can break down get a breakdown voltage, and just to get it in closer to the eye so you can see what the eye is doing. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this. That's about as far as we're going to be able to go, and then I'll just holler out and let you know where we're at. So like I said, I only need to put 100 volts in here, so let's see what 100 volts looks like. And right there we're at 100 volts going across the capacitor, and guess what? Eyes wide open. So just for grins and giggles, now this 950B will source 500 volts across the probes, the test points. But obviously these things are rated at 630, so if I can get this to go up to the top end, I'm happy. So let's go ahead and just go around the dial, and I'll keep calling them out. We're at 150. We can see the eye still open. It's going to flutter. That's fine. Coming around to 200, still good. 250, still good. There's 3 bills right there, still good. 350, and coming up around 400. And notice that it's not quite opening as far as it was, but it's still open. It's still acting like a capacitor. And of course, here we go. We're all the way up to 500 volts. And here we are at 500 volts, and I'm not sure how well you can see it, but our eye is still open. So not as open as I'd like to see it, but it's open. So that means this thing would probably, more than likely, take 630 volts. But again, it'll never see that in anything I'm working. I'm going to turn the voltage back down on this. So I tested several of those with that. Obviously not all of them. I haven't had time to. And it's pretty much, I haven't found one that failed that yet. Some of them are that's a little bit worse than a couple of the other ones that were, didn't seem to bother going on. At 500 volts, they didn't seem to have any effect on it. They didn't look like they wanted to close. So all in all, I'm going to go back to exactly what I said before. For prototyping, I will go through and I will test these things, with the ICO and for capacitance, and as long as they're up to snuff, I'll use them for prototyping. Maybe for troubleshooting, if I have a circuit that I'm having a problem with and I suspect that there's a bad poly, I might swap one of these in just to see if that improves the situation and therefore narrow down the culprit. But if it tested as that's the problem, I wouldn't probably use that. I can't see a situation where I would just leave that in circuit. That would be one of those things where, okay, I need to order one of these if I didn't have one in stock of the good one. That's the only reason I'd use one of these in the first place. But as far as prototyping goes, when you're building different circuits, you wind up, I need this capacitor, and then I got to throw that on with a bill for an invoice for something that somebody else is paying me for, and I don't like to do that. So it becomes, or I got another $9, $8.99 in shipping. See in 3 days, it's just too much. So for just prototyping purposes, there's nothing wrong with these things. You're going to want to check the values. You're going to want to make sure that you check your voltages, make sure that your breakdown voltages are all good, and you're going to want to make sure that you're checking to make sure that you're train of thought again. So I guess what happened was I looked out and I realized that there's a window right up there, and there's some big fat snowflakes just starting to come down, and I just got done shoveling, so there we go again. All right, anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I appreciate you watching. We're still working on amplifiers and still getting ready for that snow. That's I'm gonna have to go and get some more salt down. Oh, I have a new toy that's coming, and it's on a slow boat from China, but it's supposed to be here in the first part of February. And I may be doing my first unboxing video because I don't see a lot of these things. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to make it a surprise because all three of you will be like, "Yay!" Just joking. It's I'll give you a hint. It has to do with the oscilloscope. My oscilloscope is in dire need of some repair. The trigger is not working correctly on it, and I need to get in there and fix a couple of things. So I bought a temporary replacement that I might be able to use for some other things. And that's all I'm going to say. But all right, well, you guys take care. Have fun working on your toys, and don't hurt yourselves, please. For the love of God and everything holy, don't hurt yourself. And if you do hurt yourself, you didn't see any of this on my channel. Okay. All right. Have a wonderful day.